What's up, guys? It is Nate, One Man's Odyssey, doing another day hike here in northern New Mexico. Today, we are hoping to summit two 12,000-foot peaks, one unnamed but ranked, the other named but unranked, in the Latir Peak wilderness. Unfortunately, the Latir lakes are closed for the season, and the Midnight Trail remains pretty badly damaged due to the wind event of December 2021. So we left via Cabresto Lake once again. This time I'm with my dad, or at least came with my dad. He is going to spend the day fishing at Cabresto Lake. So fingers crossed that he catches us up a nice little dinner tonight. This is the last of two 12,000-foot peaks I have to do in the Latirs. Ideally, I would be coming from the Midnight Trail. Taking the Midnight Trail, in theory, should save a few hundred feet of elevation, although it's about the same mileage as coming from Cabresto Lake. But like I said, that trail is in extremely poor shape to the point that it's basically non-existent from what I've heard. Almost did Versilvia Peak this weekend, which would have necessitated hiking up Venado Peak, which is a Prominence Peak. But I ended up deciding I wanted to do Baldy Cabin instead. Doing Versilvia would have taken me down the exact same trail all the way up to the ridgeline as the trio of Cabresto Peak and so on that I did earlier this summer. We're at about 10,200 feet right now. It's about 7:30. I got about a 6:30 start. So we're making decent time. We are not going to Heart Lake, although we just turned onto the trail for it. Sorry, I dropped my pole. We are going to head towards Baldy Cabin, and then we are going to head up the unnamed but ranked peak, which most people refer to as Baldy Cabin Peak. And then after we bag the ranked one, if everything still looks good weather-wise and I'm feeling up to it, which I don't expect I won't be, I am going to head to the named but unranked Baldy Peak. So very creative with the naming there. I think we've got about 1.5 miles, 2 miles to Baldy Cabin, or at least to the trail to Baldy Cabin. And then it's hopefully an easy off-trail hike, although my friend Will was warning me about deadfall, so hopefully it's not too bad. As you can probably tell, we're being treated to some beautiful fall scenery right now. It feels like fall in every way, except the temperature. It's kind of warm right now. I think when we got to the lake, my car thermometer was saying 50, but it felt so much warmer than 50. It feels warm now, and it's not just because I'm hiking. In 50, I think I would need more than this. So I don't know if it's just the humidity or what, but definitely is warm. And we've been in a heat spell in general all over New Mexico. But yeah, I mean, just the leaves are amazing. The smell, I mean, it just smells like fall. It smells like autumn. You should see the leaves on the ground. I love this time of year. I think if somebody asked me what is the best time of year to hike in New Mexico, say specifically northern New Mexico, I would say like mid-September to mid-October. That's just the best time in my opinion. It's choice. Coyote. It doesn't get much more fall than hanging out at a creepy cabin in the woods with the leaves changing. And up here, there's a little bit of crispness. I mean, the sweat I've built up is making me feel a little cool, but obviously not enough to put on a jacket. But it's nice. I mean, this cabin, pretty trashed. The doors and the windows are open, which I don't think is supposed to be true. Somebody must have come here and forced them open, because online I was reading that this is not open to the public. So I don't, obviously there's a nice little fire ring, but I don't even think you're really supposed to camp here. I think I vaguely remember that the at least the meadow you're not supposed to camp at. Maybe you can camp over here by the cabin, but I'll show you inside the cabin in a minute. This is kind of a cool coyote we saw. I've noticed that people are reporting seeing coyotes higher and higher. Obviously, one of the big news stories of the last decade or so is that coyotes are becoming kind of an urban pest, but they seem to be spreading a lot more in the mountains that I've seen. Coyotes are obviously synonymous with the desert, but it's sort of weird to see them. We're almost at 12,000 feet here. I think we're about like 11,600, 11,500. So it's pretty crazy to see a coyote all the way up here. It was a very pretty coyote, though. It wasn't ragged and ratty like a lot of coyotes can be. So I'm going to sit here, eat my ginger snap, drink some water, and then I think we're going to do our push up to Baldy. It's about 8:30 right now, so we're making pretty good time. The view from in front of the cabin, pretty nice meadow, and you can maybe see way in the back there. I think that's Gold Hill sticking out, so you even get a view of some high peaks. But yeah, it is a nice meadow. Let's go check out the cabin. I'm not gonna lie, the cabin has a stench to it. You can smell it from just right here at the door. It smells dank in a bad way. It smells rotten. I would not want to go in here unless I absolutely had to. I might try to close the door, but with the window open, there's probably no point, given that animals will have a way in. There we are, Lundberg, dated July of this year. Does look like there's a stove in there. I mean, yeah, I would not want to go in here unless I absolutely had to. It smells bad and looks really gross. You can see loads of mouse droppings. Not a fun place to hang out. It would be nice if it got cleaned up a little bit. Well, a lot. The other thing about Baldy Cabin is that it's dry, although there is an intermittent stream running currently. However, this water doesn't look great. I would not, well, it probably would. It's clear. It wouldn't be a bad thing to drink. It's just, looks like animals have walked through it. And also, I don't know how reliable it is. It is an intermittent stream on the map, and this looks pretty paltry for post-monsoon. It's definitely been steep. Not the worst I've ever done, but definitely a thigh burner. One that leaves you gasping for air. But we're almost at the top, I think. Just maybe a couple hundred more feet to go. Check this out. Wow. Think it's fall? That is amazing. What a view of those changing leaves. We're probably in peak right now. Oh, I'm going to show you more of these views when I get to the summit, but what a view of Blanca out there. I can tell it's raining in a few places around me, so I would not be surprised if I get hit with the sprinkle here pretty soon. But I don't even mind. I'm speechless. There's a survey marker up here. I believe that this peak, the ridge of this peak, does actually mark the boundary with the Rio Costilla Co-op. Of course, the Latir Lakes, I think, are in that bowl right there, so on the other side of that ridge line. But you can see down there, going to that pond, lake, whatever you want to call it, there is a 2-track. So, man, I would love, please, many times pleases, if you know somebody or a member of the Rio Costilla Co-op and can get me access to that area, please let me know. Obviously, the Latir Lakes are open during summer when there's not poaching, so hopefully that continues to be the case in the future, and I'd love to hike for Sylvia out of that trailhead. There are more areas to the north that are on the Rio Costilla Co-op land that are not, to my knowledge, accessible via legal means through the Latir Lakes. So again, please, if you guys have any connections to that area, please let me know. Contact me on, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere. Let me know. All right. After this peak, I only have, I think, 3 more peaks to go. Or sorry, I have 3 more day hikes and 4 more other peaks on public land. And then there's the 3 private peaks, really 4 if you include State Line Peak and the State Line High Point, which I do. And then obviously the 3 peaks on Taos Pueblo, which at least 2 of those I really highly doubt I'm going to ever hike in my life. So I would love to not pay Ted Turner a bucket of money to hike some of those peaks on the Rio Casilla Co-op. So please let me know. Anyway, if anybody's still watching after that long rant, let's head to the peak. All right. Well, my suspicions about this peak were true. The high point is somewhere behind me. It's kind of just like a big flat area at the top. So I kind of walked around just to make sure I bagged it. There's no register that I can find, but this peak is actually below tree line, surprisingly. It was pretty bald coming up, so we did get some views to the north, to the south during that. But right now, it's only views to the north, which they're stunning views, but you really hope for 360. This must be the only 12,000 foot, ranked 12,000 foot peak in New Mexico that is not above tree line, because this is the only time I can recall being at a 12,000 foot peak and not being above the tree line, which does give you an idea of how high tree line is in New Mexico. I remember very vividly heading over when I went to West Spanish Peak. I think the tree line started at 11,000 feet. In New Mexico, you typically hit tree line somewhere between 11,700 and 12,000, but almost always by the time you're at 12,000 feet, you're above tree line. So I'm so surprised that we're not above tree line right now. Anyway, not much to do up here other than appreciate the view. We are heading southeast towards Baldy Peak or Baldy Mountain. Not to be confused with the Baldy Mountain on the Philmont Scout Ranch. This one is not, again, this is not a ranked peak, but I do believe it will have some views south and to the east. So basically the directions that we can't see from Baldy Cabin Peak. This may be the pretty brutal deadfall that was mentioned to me. I can kind of see that there's a pretty big swath of it right here. Definitely you could tell it was windy. I just checked my GPS to see where I was, and I'm pretty far from the ridge. This is taking me basically back to the trail, which is really frustrating. And I'm sure that if this deadfall is here, it's probably over by the trail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going down. And if I hit the trail, I'm going to head towards Baldy Peak on that trail. But if that trail has really bad deadfall on it, I think I'm just going to call it, because this, I mean, it is literally an impenetrable wall of deadfall that has a very, geez Louise, oh my gosh, I'm glad that caught on camera. These damn turkeys are fool's heads, goodness gracious. Okay, all right, now that my adrenaline is up to 100, wow, I'm glad that's on camera. These grouse, they are so obnoxious when they do that. Anyway, what was I saying? We're gonna go to the trail, and follow that and see if that can take us to Baldy Peak, because it does run like right below Baldy Peak. But if that deadfall's bad, we're just gonna head back. That is, again, impenetrable. All right, so I think what you're looking at is what remains of the Midnight Trail. You can see that is like impenetrable deadfall. There's deadfall, and then there's that. That is wicked. There is no way that I'd be able to get through that in any reasonable amount of time and safely. My friend, Will, he's been in plenty of these videos. He was up here like a few weeks ago, and he said that there was a way around it, but he neglected to tell me what that way was. I don't know. I think maybe if I had kept maybe if I had kept on the east side of the ridge, if I had gone over the ridge and kept on the east side, maybe I could have done it. But to be honest, I don't really have the desire to turn back around and just for that chance right now, given that Baldy Mountain is an unranked peak. So unfortunately, no Baldy Mountain today, or Baldy Peak, whichever one it is. But we did hit the main goal, which was the ranked 12,000 foot peak, Baldy Cabin Peak. So there's the Midnight Trail. I'm going to take that back down to the cabin, I think, and just probably take some pain medicine and put on my ankle brace. I decided not to do my typical tall boots that I've been wearing pretty much for every hike since my injury. My ankle's been feeling really good, and I figured, like, well, I'll give it a go in trail runners. And oh yeah, my ankle is feeling it big time. That is not feeling good. So I won't have any problems getting back to the trailhead, I'm sure. But oh, and look, deadfall. Okay. Anyway, enough gabbing. To the trailhead. So any sheep who thought about coming up here to graze, think again. Closed. If you're wondering what the deal with all the deadfall is, because it's really intense and localized, obviously. Goodness, ow. It's really intense and localized, obviously. There was a lot of deadfall in this section, but the entire hike up, there's virtually no deadfall, even off trail. And I'll try to include some more information about it below, but basically in December 2021, there was a huge, intense wind event that hit southern Colorado, northern New Mexico, the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And basically it knocked down tons of trees in these areas. Sorry, I'm getting my bearings. We're really close to the cabin. The trail has kind of disappeared here. And the thing is that this happened in December 2021. Most of summer 2022, I think until 4th of July weekend, you can see me watch my video on hiking Gold Hill to see that, was actually closed due to really intense fire danger. So as a result, I think the wind event sort of played second fiddle to that fire, to the fire danger, and people don't really talk about it much. But entire swaths of trail in northern New Mexico, and I believe when did I hike West Spanish Peak? That would have been summer 2022. I originally wanted to hike Trinchera Peak, but that the trail and the road in that area was closed because of that wind event. So I don't know how much things have cleaned up in Colorado. I know the big trails, like, well, it's Gold Hill, they cleared that. Those have been closed. Those have been reopened and cleared. But then areas like this, like the Midnight Trail, are virtually impassable. Now, I do think that the Forest Service announced that they had plans to clear that deadfall, but as you can see, or as you saw in the video, that is not, there's deadfall, like a few trees in the way. And then there's a literal wall of down trees that you cannot pass. And that is what that was. Just maybe if my ankle was feeling a little bit better, I might have tried to get through it, or I might have doubled back, or if my dad wasn't waiting for me. But I think I would not have been able to make it through that. I mean, for reference, I only had about 150 feet of elevation gain and maybe a quarter of a mile to get to the summit. And so if I could power through it, I definitely would have. That was just rough. That was bad. All right, back at Baldy Cabin, eating a snack, took some ibuprofen. Unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to give up the notion of wearing trail runners on longer hikes. I think I gotta wear the big heavy boots on long hikes. Just my ankle is not feeling great. It feels like, honestly, it feels like it kind of would maybe back in March. That kind of pain just is really weird because I thought that I was doing so well that I could get away with trail runners, but I really can't. I think the ibuprofen and the brace will help, so I'm not too worried about it. But not much to say. Obviously you saw the way up. I'm gonna film a lot more on the way down just to show off the beautiful leaf colors changing. But it is the same hike I did earlier in the summer once I hit the trail intersection. the one where I did the Cabresto Peaks. So not much to really say. I think it'll be a pretty easy hike. Hopefully my dad caught some fish. If he did, I'll definitely show that. Time to head out.